Greetings everyone, my name is Dietrich, and I welcome you all to my Let's Play of Cali's Trials, a 2D roguelike action platformer developed and published by VDO Games. This is in fact an updated re-release of Cali's Caves 2, which was originally released on the iOS and Android platforms, along with its predecessor Cali's Caves 1 and its larger sequel Cali's Caves 3. Both this and Cali's Caves 3 have been released on Steam, and has been met very positively. You can nab this title for about $7 on Steam. The story of this game is you play as Cali, the 6-year-old girl whose parents, as you can see here in this picture, have been kidnapped by the maniacal scientist Herbert, who has taken over the cave system once again and mutated all the creatures into hostile monstrosities, as well as hired some goons or converted or mind control those goons. Without further ado, let's begin. And as a word of disclaimer, if you've been paying attention to my earlier videos, I did a Let's Try of this title, so I did get a free key from Dietrich Online Services to review this title. So I'm reusing the same key in order to play this game. Alright, with that out of the way, here we're controlling Cali, the 6-year-old heroine. I'll be using the keyboard controls. You can also be playing using a controller, and you can rebind keys and buttons. Alright, in order to fire your currently equipped weapon, use the Z key and hold it down. Press X to swing your sword. And to switch your weapon, if you have other weapons, press the C key. To jump, just press the spacebar. And you can also double jump as well. Pretty neat. Here's Cali's home on the left with a picture of her parents, both of whom has been kidnapped. Too bad we can't go to the left. But I suppose there's a secret on the top left that we may be able to access. By the way, this will be a semi-blind playthrough. I've completed up to stage 1 and part of stage 2, but the rest are unknown to me. Let's talk with Lloyd. Lloyd is one of our friends from Cali's Caves 1. And here we're informing him that our parents have been kidnapped once again, and he's taken them to the bottom of the cave where he's built another giant base. Here we're introduced to his storefront, here to this oddly shaped tree, and we'll be paying attention to these doors at a later date. Over here is the store where you can buy a lot of upgrades, like health refills, multipliers, certain abilities, sword upgrades, health regen, even more interesting things like reducing enemy HP, dodge abilities, energy wave, the ability to level up, and shortcuts, which I'll talk about later, the ability to get more experience or more coins, a multiplier, an extra lamp, and other things, of which we'd have not enough money for. So let's go dive into the game itself. At the beginning of each chapter we'll have an overview of the first room with the title, the number, and a nice introduction to the environment. Here we are starting at chapter 1, Humble Beginnings. I'll try covering one chapter per part, although for latter chapters I'll probably have to split it up. As a word of the interface, on the top left we have Cali, the number of hearts she has, 1 hit per heart, so we start out with 3. What level she currently is at, she's at level 1. At the top of the silhouette of her, we have an experience bar, which is the overall character experience. You gain experience by killing off monsters, and the more experience you get, if you get enough, you'll level up and increase the number of hearts. The gold coin indicator is the amount of money you have, as you can see. Use that to buy stuff from the shop. And on the top right, we have our weapon indicator, which has a image of the weapon. In this case, it's the pistol, the level it's at, and on the top next to the skull markers, that's the experience bar. In this game you can not only level up your character, but you can level up all of your weapons. You have 12 weapons you can level up in this game. And if you level up a weapon, not only does it increase the damage you deal, it also can increase the effectiveness in other fashions, as in give it unique new abilities. Like, the pistol is the simplest weapon to use, but as I level it up, it'll deal more and more damage, and in addition to that, it'll also gain other stuff like piercing and other creative things. We'll see some of the more upgrades are more creative with the later weapons to come. I already faced the bear cub. If you face an enemy for the first time, you'll see that's nice intro, so that's nice. I would also like to take some time to appreciate the introduction of this stage. Here it's teaching the player how to jump correctly, and over here it's forcing the player to double jump, and slowly easing the player to new challenges. And we also face the bear cub, the simplest enemy, which is running left and right, and we have time to see it if we stand over here. Plus it's very easy to dodge, and it doesn't deal that much damage. And it has 10 health, so it's very easy to dispatch. Currently our pistol can deal 1 point of damage per hit. As you may have noticed, for all weapons, you'll gain experience by actually hitting the enemy. To gain character experience, you need to actually kill the enemy and collect these blue orbs lying around. And of course, the tougher the enemy, which you'll face later, the more experience you get for shooting them. That'll be important when we need to level grind the new weapons we get. As you collect more weapons, they'll always start at level 1. As you can see here, I leveled up my weapon to level 2, so now my pistol does 0.2 more damage. So I can kill these bears in 9 hits now. I'll probably be able to get my pistol up to level 9 before I get the next weapon. I will be using the pistol the least in this game because it is, after all, the weakest weapon, and they're better straight-firing weapons. To be fair, the best usage of the pistol is the fact it has a decent firing rate, and it always fires straight without any bullet deviation or drop. Be warned about water, as it's instant death. Callie can't swim. And always try collecting as much money as possible, as we need it for the shop. In fact, as I said before, this is a roguelike platformer. If you die, you're sent right back to the beginning, although you maintain all of your character and weapon level experience bars. But you have to travel all throughout the cave to get back to where you were, refighting all the enemies, traversing the same obstacles, and refighting the bosses unless you buy shortcuts. Here's the next weapon. We found the shotgun, which I will be using very soon once I level up the pistol level 3. And there's Lloyd explaining some of the mechanics I've already talked about. So the shotgun I'm definitely going to be using more. It fires a spread of bullets at your nearest position. Although, as you can see here, the spread it kind of deviates, so it doesn't really fire straight. So it's best as a short and medium range weapon rather than a long range weapon like your pistol. Although for most of the enemies we'll be facing here, being at long range isn't really necessary. Excluding 1 or 2 enemy types being the spider and bat, but especially in the second chapter where we'll get a better long-range weapon, then we'll have to deviate from using the shotgun. In this chapter we can really just go about using the pistol for most of the situations. Here we have our first tougher enemy, the knife bandit, and unlike the bear cubs, we can actually stun them by using the pistol. You may notice that you can also use the sword, but I don't recommend using it. As you can see, it deals only 1 damage, and you don't gain any experience by using it, or weapon experience. The only way to upgrade your sword is, of course, to go to the shop. Whenever possible, avoid using the sword and just use your guns, because they need as much experience as they need. Always funnel as much experience into your weapons, especially as you want to get their evolutions. We're almost at level 4 for our pistol. Here we have a treasure chest. Lots of nice equipment there, or money. Yep, Callie's too young for swimming lessons, so falling into there would be instant death. Although the way instant death traps are handled in this game are a lot more fair. Basically, once you fall into an instant death trap, you're taken to the beginning of the room. You're not sent right back to the beginning of the game, or right back to Callie's house. You're sent back to the beginning of the room with just 1 heart. So I think that's a fair trade-off when you have to avoid falling into instant death spikes, water, acid, lava, etc. But you still are at risk of dying from getting hit by an enemy. Although if you run out of health when facing enemies, well, you're sent back to the beginning at Callie's house. Weapon up. I'll be using the pistol until I get to level 4. I believe that's when we get the first weapon evolution. But really, most of the enemies we'll be facing at this segment are enemies that just move left and right, without much problems. And also, certain enemies can be stunned with different weapons, it seems. Like we can stun the bear cub using the sword, but using the shotgun or pistol will not stun it. And here's our next enemy, the pesky spider. It moves left and right, but what makes it more dangerous is the fact it jumps around, so it can make it a little bit hard to hit. Thankfully, with our superior mobility, we can dodge it more easily. We'll be facing more difficult versions of these enemies later on in the game. Oh, don't worry, they'll be a lot more annoying to face. When facing these enemies, I just suggest using the shotgun. Whoa, that's a little bit risky. Thankfully though, our bullets actually go slightly off screen when facing these foes, so it makes it a lot easier to deal with them. Below there is a spike pit, so be on your guard. Here's our next annoying enemy type. Bats. At least in this introduction you're allowed to shoot at it from a distance, but boy, these are so annoying and dangerous to take care of, especially at this level. If you don't have these are called rabbit bats. If you're not at a high enough weapon level, those can easily, because they slowly fly to your current position, similar to batons in the Mega Man series, you can easily get swarmed and killed, especially as you have to jump and shoot at it. As you can see, this is where it gets a little bit dangerous. But here's our pistol has leveled up to level 4. Although one annoying aspect of this game is that when your weapons get an evolution, you're immediately taken to this screen, regardless of when you were in the middle of a jump or facing a tough swarm of enemies or a boss. So it's kind of annoying and can be quite dangerous and lead to your death, so yeah. Now that we've got our first weapon level up, our damage has increased, we have bigger bullets, and it looks cooler. Yeah, the other weapons will have much better evolutions. As you can see, we deal more damage now, and the bullets are bigger. So it should make it easier to hit stuff. Of course now I'll just focus on using the shotgun, and I pretty much won't be using the pistol for the rest of the game, outside of certain exhibitions. I will be leveling up the pistol off screen just to show how it evolves, but otherwise I'd rather just use something else like the shotgun. The pistol really falls behind in terms of every other weapon. Long story short, every other weapon is better. I haven't been defeated yet, but I will soon enough. As Lloyd explains, if you die, you're sent right back to Callie's backyard, and you have to go through the cave. You can buy a lamp in order to have one revive, like an extra life, but you only get one, so be careful. Sadly, we can't collect these 4 gems yet. We need to buy the triple jump upgrade from the shop. That's only one of 2 upgrades that are really mandatory for accessing secrets. And Lloyd is back here again. He's explaining as you level up each gun, they get more powerful, usually damage, and then once they evolve, you get even more abilities. Here's the pistol, and we can level it up to level 4, I believe. Although I'll be probably doing that off screen because of how slow it is and how they're better weapons when dealing with stuff. And here's our next enemy type, dire wolves. They run left and right a little bit faster than bear cubs, but otherwise they're about the same. Oh, and also, when I say you're dealing damage to the enemy, it also seems to be dependent on the number of pellets hitting the enemy as well. Well, the number of damage you do, and the number of pellets, it seems. Originally my shotgun pellets did about 0.5 damage, but now each one of them does 0.55 damage. It certainly is better, but it certainly needs more work. Otherwise, it's relatively simple right now. Most of the enemies are moving left and right and rather slow and easy to deal with. This will definitely change in the next chapter, especially with one certain enemy type who I find to be quite annoying with the current weapons I'll have. For the boss of this chapter, I strongly suggested you're at least at character level 2 or 3, and you have leveled up your shotgun up to level 4 where it gets its first evolution. That really helps with the boss fight. Well, the boss isn't really that hard in the first place, but it makes it a lot faster to deal with. And here's the second occurrence where you need the triple jump in order to access. Thankfully though, this game isn't a Metroidvania, so you won't have that many inaccessible areas. Now, in addition to these areas or these regions of the map which we can't reach, there are also secret rooms that we can't really go through because of their positioning. Basically, I would consider them secret rooms and whatnot. And here we have our next enemy type, smokers. They basically fire projectiles in whichever position they're facing. They're certainly more challenging compared to the other enemies because they're the first enemy type who can actually fire back at you. Also, you need the triple jump in order to access the right segment. Oh, that was kind of bad of me. Oh, and by the way, we've reached character level 2. Oh, I pressed the wrong button, sorry there. But once you level up in character level, it increases the max health you have, as well as other interesting things. In this game, it's mainly character health, but I believe there's other things you can gain. This is one of the rooms where you really need the triple jump, as I was mentioning, so I will return here once I purchase that upgrade. Another interesting thing about this game is the fact that once you exit and re-enter a room, all enemies, coins, even treasure chests respawn. So certain areas of the game will be much better for grinding. Like over here, for example. All the coins have respawned. I can go exit the room, re-enter the room, and boom, up there, the smoker is back and running. So it'll be great for level grinding, and especially with areas with a lot of gems or treasure chests, you can use that for farming, for shop items. That's pretty nice, although it can be quite broken. And our shotgun is leveled up to level 4, so it's evolved, so now the damage has increased, we have more bullets, and we have a wider spread. Definitely better at short range. As you can see, we're firing a lot more projectiles. Now, enemies will at random drop hearts, which you can use to refill your health, of course. As you can see here, I really need more hearts. Especially at this low level, it may be best to just avoid these enemies and go for the treasure itself if you're really going for money. But if you want to grind for weapon experience, just go for the enemies. Whoa. Just be careful so you don't easily get killed. Callie's invulnerability time is kind of short, and her knockback, especially when going over platforming segments, can be kind of a problem. So be on your guard, especially when you have a lot of flying enemies. But really, with all the enemies just running left and right, with the exception of the smokers, the best strategy is to just move left and right, or just jump away and jump back up. Oh, and we have another stage background. Ow. Of course, one annoying thing about this game is the fact that, well, if you get knocked into a door, well, you're sent to the next room. There's no confirmation or pressing up to go to the next room, so that can be kind of annoying. especially with enemies like those bats. This is one of the places where using the pistol will be more useful, so I'll probably just do that. Especially as the pistol does have a little bit faster fire rate than the shotgun, it seems, and it always fires true to whichever direction. Here Lloyd's teaching us that we can use the sword in order to block their projectiles. This will become almost mandatory in later chapter enemies. But it's nice that this is setting up for enemies called turrets in the second chapter. Just be on your guard when doing this so you don't accidentally get killed. I won't be showing this off until I get an extra heart, of course. And sneaky, they put a bat over there. Thankfully the bats aren't too durable, but most of these enemy types, as I'm saying right now, are just easier versions of later ones, which will become a lot more a nuisance, especially with their configurations. Because the drop of hearts is completely random, it can result in odd situations like here where you're really starved for health. Of course, if everything signs up for you, you can get a pretty good situations like this. Like these treasure chests will definitely drop health if you're low on health. And this is one of the rooms where I say it's pretty good for grinding. Come back over here. These enemies respawn. They aren't too much of a problem to deal with. And these chests will now always drop these gems. Each one of these is worth about 100 coins. So if you go through this room a few times, you can get enough for the basic shop upgrades. I actually suggest doing this for a little bit more weapon experience and to get things like the shotgun. I mean the triple jump ability, as that's really useful and saves you in many different situations. So I'll just be running through this room 2 or 3 more times, and then I'll continue on. And of course this is nice if you really need extra health. Also in this game you can air jump, but it's equivalent to how many you can only do 1 or 2 air jumps. Alright, that should be enough. Let's go continue on with the chapter. Oh, ow. With a level 6 shotgun, that should be enough for facing the boss. And also, as you saw there, because I leveled up to level 2, I now have 4 hearts from a max health. I'm probably going to reach level 3 before I face the boss, which I strongly suggest, as it makes it a lot more forgiving, even though the boss is pretty easy and you could do it at level 1. Thankfully these bandits are even more pathetic compared to the baby bears because of how easy they're stun locked. Alright, level 3. Oops. And here's the first demonstration. We get this creepy game over screen for dying. But if we click here, or press the button, we're sent right back to here. We have 1 heart, but remember this room? We can just go back and restore it. So it is kind, though any hit will kill you after this. There we are, we're back to max health of 5. Alright, let's try going to the room correctly this time. And here, if we go over here, we get this treasure chest. It's only 100 gems, so it isn't really that worth it compared to other things. And if you see me holding down the Z key, well, that's the best strategy as we don't have any ammo or restoration issues. This may be a problem later on when we have slower firing weapons, but for now I'll just basically glue down the fire rate key. After all, there's no penalty for misfiring here, or aiming incorrectly. And here, if we take the lower route, we get all these treasure chests. So this game really incentivizes exploration, although later on we'll face tougher enemies because of this. The sequel, Callie's Caves 3, which has 200 more levels compared to this one, it incentivizes exploration even more, especially with the arena mode and the fact that the last level of guns are basically locked until you fulfill different challenges. Here, not so much. The system here for unlocking guns is a lot simpler. Alright, I should be here soon enough, but I should explore this. Alright, I'm at 7,000 coins or gold. We should be coming up to the boss soon enough. For the upcoming boss, the shotgun is the best weapon. Unless you really want to play it safe, then you can just use the pistol. But the shotgun really speeds up the fight, especially if you are mediocre in terms of skill for this game. At least mediocre. Whoa. Here's the Smoky. As you can see, if you block the blow correctly, you'll see the spark, which means that you basically destroyed the projectile. It's a lot simpler here, but for other enemies this will become a lot more problematic. Or a lot harder to do. And I've unlocked the second upgrade for the shotgun. It's not really needed for the first boss, but it is very helpful, as it increases your damage and spread, but in addition to that, it'll make your middle bullet completely accurate. What that means is basically it'll act like the pistol round. Although unlike dealing 1.6 points of damage, it'll deal guaranteed 0.5. So yeah, it's obsoleting the pistol even further. Now you can just use this for long-range sniping, although this is going to be slower. And I haven't really mentioned this before, but the music is quite atmospheric. It's quite easy listening and nice on the ears. Thankfully, the platforming challenges aren't too bad right now. We have all these leads so that we don't do any of these blind jumps. So that's nice. And this was more due to my fault for not paying attention. Hopefully I don't die in this point. But of course, if you're taken to the beginning of the room, you have to restore all of your health, so that can prove to be a problem depending on how the RNG favors you or not. It seems to be favoring me quite a bit this time. Whoa. Of course, the problem with the Smokies and other projectile enemies is that they can actually hit you even if they're off screen, so you always should be a little bit on your guard and keep your finger on the sword key or button. I may even reach the character level 4, which is kind of ridiculous if you ask me. But it's nice getting all those gems. This is another one of those grinding spots I would suggest doing if you really want to purchase some of the upgrades. The dire wolves, especially in those smaller enclosures, are kind of a nuisance to deal with, so I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you really want experience, like I do. Of course, if you get a rhythm down like I have here, it makes it a lot simpler to deal with them. And there's the boss door. Here's the first boss of this game, Mama Bear. Mama Bear is very easy to deal with. She acts basically like the bear cubs. She just moves left and right, and once she reaches the edge, she'll just reverse direction. Although, unlike the bear cub, she's a lot more aggressive. In essence, the fact is, if you stand on the top of this platform, she'll just act like a normal bear cub. But, the moment you get on the ground, she'll reverse her direction and move towards you. Like, even if she's moving back, she'll immediately start rushing towards me if I get down. Her only attack is her contact damage and her claw. So, the strategy is, wait for her to move back a bit, use your shotgun or pistol, and then if she gets too close, jump up on these platforms, wait for her to move back, get back down, keep firing at her, rinse and repeat. It's safer to use the pistol, of course, mainly because you can fire at longer range, but if you level up the shotgun and you're good enough, you can just do this and deal a lot more damage. But just be careful, because the time the claw it remains on screen is a little bit misleading. It lasts on screen for a little bit longer than you'd think it would be. But other than that, she has no other patterns, no other boss movements, or what else. She just sticks to this pattern and there's no other forms. Kinda boring for a first boss in my own personal opinion. Considering we had enemies that could fire back, I would have liked that in her critical mode or pinch mode she would fire or spit out bombs or something. Similar to the Smokies, and you would have to block them using your sword or something. After all, we already got enough experience of dodging from the dire wolves. But it's nice that the level designers and enemy designers showed how to deal with this enemy type through the use of the dire wolves, the bandits, and the bear cubs. And there's another interesting factoid about this game that I'm quickly discovering. If you're really good at this game, you could basically just speedrun it and just run past almost every enemy and not have to visit the shop. After all, if you don't die, you don't need to buy the shop up. You don't need to buy the shortcuts. I don't even think the triple jump's really necessary for progressing. But even then, you can minimize the number of shortcuts you have to take if you're really good. That's one of the advantages of most roguelikes, after all. If you're really good, you can avoid having to go back and play through the game over and over. In fact, I would like to amend my earlier statement. This isn't a roguelike, it's a roguelite, because you still maintain your experience after dying. And here the mama bear is getting ready to explode. After all, she's not attacking at all, except just rushing towards you. And thus she explodes. Yeah, she was basically originally a nice mama bear, but of course Herbert's maniacal inventions have mutated her into that crazy beast. But it's given us enough experience to level up to level 4. And somehow Lloyd got behind the boss. How does Lloyd get around this area? I will pay attention to you in the next top area. And here we have an intro to the Chapter 2, a prelude to Carl. So we are in a little bit more of the cavernous region, and immediately we're greeted with the assault rifle, which I'll explain more in the next part. But here I would like to demonstrate something. Oh, didn't expect this to happen. Oh yeah, and also if you go back to the room, you'll have to refight the boss, so... Of course, I actually came behind the boss, so it's even more hilarious. So you can in fact use this as a level grinding spot if you really want to. And this is what happens if you die. What? That wasn't actually how it's supposed to go, but okay. Well, as you can see here, you can refight the boss for loads of experience, but yeah, that was an odd glitch. That's not exactly supposed to happen. Let's see what happens if we jump into the water and we're at 1 health. If we're at 1 health, you should be taken back to the Callie's home. Nope. Even if you're on 1 health, if you fall into the pit, you're still taken back to the beginning of the room with 1 heart. So it's a lot more forgiving than I anticipated. But of course, if you die to an enemy, which I'll show right here, you get the same screen, and you're taken all the way back to Kelly's home. Well then, to summarize what happened in this part, I completed the first stage, I got the shotgun, evolved it twice, I also evolved the pistol level 1, and I got the assault rifle. So, in the next part, I'll be continuing on to the second zone. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Toodles!